Welcome to Assessment One Continued. I think that when the Assessment One is read carefully in the course outline, you'd be surprised that really is telling you exactly what you need to do. I'm not lessening the job ahead, but I am saying it is stunning and surprising how many times people skim it. I could be guilty of that at times, skimming things, but don't really read exactly what is needed. So it sounds pedantic, and frankly, it is pedantic. The concept of this is to get everybody into the mindset of the rules of the academic writing, the formal academic tone. You'll start to see, you can find a document on Blackboard talking about academic words, no different to accounting words or medical terminology. Academics has a different language, so to speak. It's not that something was found, it might be that there was evidence of. It could be words like subsequently. It's really not talking like you're talking at the water cooler. It's talking more like you're actually putting together an academic piece of work. So let me just say very, very clearly, we're looking for people to use every word of Assessment One as though it's extremely vital. So sometimes, I guess in the bachelor's or in some cases, even back at school, you'd see the 1500 and you'd think, well, now, how am I going to pad enough of this because I've run out of time? I just got stuck at Narita Airport or whatever is the deal, or really I don't have time for this subject anyway. Um, let's just jot something down. So that's why I would say right now, if I were sitting in your shoes, I would actually spend just a little bit of time to limit your risk and uncertainty, make a decision. There's a process at this point to block this up into the three sections and think about how am I going to summarize. First, you've got to select the decision. And most people spend an enormous amount of time worrying about what decision to select. It's really not about the decision as much as what you're going to do with it when you get the decision. It would be really good if you pick something at work, or whatever your career is. Could be in a university, as I've said before, you could be anywhere. But once you pick that, it's got to be one that you've actually observed, okay? Not one that you've actually been involved in per se, one that you've observed. So once you actually find this decision, the first part of the task is to summarize this decision, articulately summarize this decision. This doesn't need to sound like something that you're talking to the guys or girls at, over the water cooler. It is really got to sound like an academic recital. So in other words, think about if you went to a board meeting or you went to a medical review or whatever it is, you're probably not going to get there and say, well, this happened and that happened and blah, blah, blah. It's got to be something that gives the reader some confidence that you really thought about this. You put some critical analysis into this. You really thought about summarizing this. This is what you're learning about in the theory, and start thinking about the initial chapters, the decision-making process. What about bounded rationality? And that's something that is basically core to this whole situation. You're going to see this again and again and again. When you start doing your case, Enron, General Motors, and Disney, what you'll see is that bounded rationality. Wow. And what we mean when we say bounded rationality is pretty much what it says. The number of decisions that are made, and you will see this in your own life with limited information. I'm not simplifying it too much, but really there are a lot. And there are many, many authors that are involved in studying this very context. So, okay, you've summarized beautifully. You've figured out that you're going to use every word effectively. You've answered every part of every question of what is in the course outline. No tricks here, not a lot of other information. The details, the devil's in the details. The details are in front of you. It's whether or not you want to follow them. Okay, so you've done the summary, and now what you've got to do, you've got to analyze that decision. I like to think about this is more like a science experiment, if anyone remembers that at school. Aim, method, conclusion. I mean, pretty much that simple. Obviously, it's not that simple to write this, but it is that simple, the concept. Okay, so you've got that. You've got your aim. You put that down. You're actually now onto your analysis. Well, when you analyze it, it's okay to analyze it in the form of, any other type of critical analysis, but don't just put blocks of, theory that we all know anyway. We probably know word for word what Simon or any of these people have said before. So what we're looking for is for you to tell us in your decision when you analysed it, which parts of it were actually related to bounded rationality. Well, that's step one. That's good. But then you've got to cite somebody that may have said something about it. And all of these areas that you'll look at, uncertainty and risk, bounded rationality, you'll have some in the textbook. McKee, there's some good examples of the process. But all of these things, you've got to cite it, right? Basically, just putting a block in there, and that's nice, but that's not really integrating the theory with the actual topic or your decision. So let's say you do get through section one, meaning summarize, section two, meaning analysis, and I'm just going to strongly urge you to do this. Don't miss the recommendations piece. Recommendation means, let's just look at this in a simple form. Just say I'm working in a hospital. And I'm a nurse in a hospital, and my nurse unit manager makes a decision she's going to shut down, or he's going to shut down, or somebody's going to shut down two beds. I'm only saying that because I spent a lot of time in healthcare. So what happens is I observe that decision, I summarize it, I then analyze it, and I link it back to all the things that we've learned about so far in this big long 2 weeks. It's not even 2 weeks yet. I actually look at that, and then what I do is I think I'm going to make some recommendations here backed by the theory that I've been learning about. And this is going to be a repetitive thing over and over and over. And the thing in the academic world, what we're looking for is to answer the questions. I can't tell you, one of my love affairs is transformational leadership. I mean, I could talk about Richard Branson and all these other people ad infinitum, but that's not what the question is. I've seen people, they see 1,500 words and they think, you know what, so what? I'm going to go to 3,000. And what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to find out, let's just say this guy's written a doctorate on transformational leadership. Let's go down that track. I've read work that was just absolutely stunningly good, but it didn't answer the question. And it sounds like somebody being authoritarian asking this, but let's think about it a different way because it really isn't. Let's say you went to a board meeting, for any of those folks out there in accounting world or even just business world. You go to the board meeting and they say, okay, listen, guys, put the charts up, and you say, you know what, I know that we should have profit and loss, balance sheet and all that stuff, but I'm going to present differently today. I got my own ideas here. That's going to be frosty. Let's put it that way. Likewise, you go to a medical review board, aviation review board, engineering, you name it, or even marketing. Imagine presenting a marketing plan and you say, I know you guys really want market research, share, capture, blah, 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 but I'm not doing that. I'm going to actually tell you about something that I like. So, in summary, basically adhere to academic formal tone. Okay, so this isn't about the water cooler. Secondarily, cite things, use APA 6. Yeah, put stuff in at Harvard if you really want to, but it's not going to be marked well. You've got to basically put it in with whatever this university is looking at, which is APA 6. It's really just sticking to the rules. Do something really wild. Proofread it, even when you think you've proofread it 55 times, you'd be stunned how many people will hand it in 5 minutes more, or maybe even 30 seconds of reading it more, and you could get a much better mark for that. And in essence, good luck. And what you will find is assessment two is really you just changing your role a little bit from participant observer, which you're doing here, into more of an analyst. So you're like a consultant looking at these three companies saying, wow, I'm going to analyze it. I'm actually going to summarize, analyze, and then recommend what I would have done if I had been GM, Enron, etc. And you'll find out that the companies are the same. The companies are the same today. And then this will help you to manage under uncertainty. And the other thing that I hope you get out of this, I wish I'd known a lot of this stuff before I got into the corporate world. Boy, it would have saved some time and effort. Psychology, personality, just it's an immense situation. And a lot of that builds into bounded rationality, and then it builds into bad decisions. I mean, there's enough of them. And then just to close out, things like bibliographies, is that a big part of the requirement or the rubric in this case? It's not a big part. But again, if somebody's looking for a high distinction, in the business, that's called flawless. And I guess if I was able to show you examples of flawless, I mean, these are flawless situations. So if people get back their paper and they find out, hypothetically, the bibliography has got no brackets, it's got no full stops, all that type of seemingly pedantic stuff, it's no different to going to a board meeting with your profit and loss that doesn't add up. In the academic world, that's what everybody's looking for, is to see if in fact you understand the rules, if you can present in that way. And we're looking, strangely enough, if you look at the academic world, the doctorate world, PhDs, DBAs, things like that, they much more read like a science report than they do about an elaborate, eloquent essay. That's not what's happening here. We're all very, very interested in that stuff, but the bottom line is this is all about, adhering to those rules. Yes, I've said it 100 times here. I'm only doing it to try and help. And feel free to Skype me, because I just love talking about this stuff. It's so much fun. And I think if you learn how to manage under uncertainty, especially in the road forward, I think there's a million opportunities. But you got to think differently. At the end of this subject, even in the rigor of doing the academics, it's going to help you back in the boardroom or the hospital or whatever, because you'll start to see personality traits and wow, there's a bounded rationality decision. And hey, there's a little bit of uncertainty and risk in that. Maybe we should have thought about this. It really is a useful course. Thank you.